Welcome back to the Rebuilt Parish Podcast. On today's episode, we've got Edward and Julie from the Institute for Evangelization at the Archdiocese of Baltimore. I'm so excited for you to hear how they walk alongside parishes within the diocese, and they've got some great examples of how you can do what they're doing and how they are leading by example in their diocese. And you're going to want to tune in because their take on evangelization is pretty incredible. They're helping first with leaders and then helping them evangelize from there. We'll see you inside the episode. Well, hi there, Julie and Edward. Thanks so much for joining us today.
It's great to be with you.
Well, could you please just get us started? We're going to share, first of all, the two of you are from the Archdiocese of Baltimore, which is so exciting. This is only the second time we have brought someone from the AOB, and we had Bishop Parker here last year, so we're excited to hear from your team today. But can you please introduce yourselves and share a little bit about what you do in your role? So Edward, let's have you go first.
Yeah, so I'm Edward Herrera. I serve as the executive director for what's called here in Baltimore, the Institute for Evangelization. So the Institute for Evangelization is 4 different offices, which is the Office of Parish Renewal, which we're going to talk more about today, as well as the Office of Divine Worship, so large archdiocesan liturgies, as well as liturgical formation, the Office of Family, Youth, and Young Adult Ministry, which is really womb to tomb formation, so all of those different pieces, as well as the Office of Life, Justice, and Peace, so our traditional Respect Life office, as well as deaf ministry, disability ministry, and prison ministry. So I get to oversee those, and since 2021, so it's been 5 years in this role, but doing marriage and family before that in the Archdiocese of Baltimore. So it's a real pleasure to be with you and share some of the work we're trying to do here.
That's amazing. Thanks, Edward. Julie, how about you?
Well, hello, Melissa. My name is Julie St. Croix. I am the director of the Office of Parish Renewal. So I get the pleasure of working with Edward, as well as helping to supervise and support a team of 6 parish renewal specialists who work in pairs and provide direct service to support our pastors, their staffs, and pastoral councils in whatever it is that they need. And again, I've been doing that since the Institute began 5 years ago. And I have been working for the diocese for 14 years now in various roles.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So collectively, we've got almost 20 years of experience in the diocese, plus all of the other experience before that. So this is very exciting. Thank you. Now, for those who may not be familiar, can you just briefly describe the mission of these Emmaus Teams and how you serve parishes across the Archdiocese of Baltimore?
So we had the great privilege 5 years ago when Archbishop Laurie formed the Institute for Evangelization of really praying and discerning what our mission should be. And we spent a lot of time kind of visioning and thinking about that and decided that our primary goal is to become students of our parishes. So to really get to know them, to walk with them, accompany them, and then to support the pastor and the key leadership around him so that we can work together and move forward and just determine on a very individualized basis what is the next step forward for evangelization for each parish. So we spent a lot of time originally building trust, getting to know the parishes. My team have spent time not just meeting with pastors and staff and pastoral councils, but also attending the parish, seeing what their Sunday experience was like, providing formational opportunities, retreats, whatever it is that the pastor and the staff and leadership discern would be important to help them to move forward.
Wow. Edward, anything you want to share and add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it really has been a blessing, as Julie mentioned, when we were beginning, and Julie and I have gotten to work together even before our time together in the Institute. And so to kind of come together in this new way, and really it was a blessing because the Archbishop was really looking at the Archdiocese and saying, how do our central services what other dioceses might call a chancery or what have you. How do they support the parishes? I think sometimes as an archdiocese, we look to kind of big events or programs or these types of things, which do support parishes in a different sort of way, but instead to really say, how are we directly supporting parishes in their mission of evangelization? And so that's really what the Office of Parish Renewal was charged with, and which Julie has really built out beautifully. And then also the other offices get to support in that work too, right? To say, how do we help parishes radically reorient themselves for mission? So from everything from, their outreach efforts, their, if you have a food pantry, right? How are these things reoriented to really serve in the mission of the church, right? So just really to have that laser focus on mission, but then also to do that from the perspective of, as the archdiocese, recognizing that evangelization happens locally. How are we supporting the parishes specifically to be able to carry out that work? So it's been a great 5 years and fun to kind of have the opportunity to build that out and to continue to learn, as Julie said, kind of really be students of the parishes and to understand what those needs are and to try to, as best we can, be responsive to those needs.
Wow. I love this. So first, I love that when you started putting all this together, that it was very prayerful about what that mission was going to look like. And what a way to go about it, right? Because God's ways are always better than our ways. So I think that that's important to call out, because parishes, when they begin parish renewal, prayer is the first place to start. And Edward, when you had said, some dioceses might be putting on big events or whatever it is, I love that when you decided how you were going to help these parishes, it was working with them. I love how, Julie, you said you're going and checking out their Sunday experience to see what it's like, because how do you know what it feels like to be inside of the parish if you're not there? So this sounds like a full service. You are just helping those parishes rather than saying, here's a book on how to do it. Good luck. Have a great time. I mean, I love what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it's the old standby. It's ministry with people as opposed to for them, and I think that is a very important paradigm shift for everyone. And we've learned so much from our parishes. And the other real key thing that my team can do is, if we're talking to a parish and they're facing a challenge or they're going to try something new, we can connect them with another parish who's already maybe a little further down the road doing that. And because we don't have all the answers, but we can certainly help to try and be a pivot point to connect people and just to see what the Lord is going to bring forth from those collaborations.
Collaboration, that is such a good word too, because sometimes we just need someone who's a little further along than us to kind of see, okay, so a couple of years ago, your parish maybe wasn't doing all of these things well, and now you've made these strides. It really, I think, gives parishes hope to have another parish to help mentor them.
Absolutely.
Now, Julie, I know something that you talk about is accompaniment. So what does that look like when you begin walking with a pastor and his leadership team?
So I think the key to accompaniment is like the key to evangelization. It is always built on relationships. So we spent a lot of time, especially in the first few years as the Emmaus team, just building those relationships, building that trust, being support to the pastor. I think some of the things that we've been sharing with pastors, and it's kind of, it's interesting as it's evolved, there's different kind of been bubbling up that are fairly consistent among quite a few parishes. Initially, a lot of the discussion was about the pastor and his leadership team, like who are those folks that you're bringing around you to really be co-responsible with. I think we all recognize, and we recognize this even as an institute, we developed a core team and we each have different gifts and strengths. And it was getting to know each other and getting to understand how we best work, where we thrive, where maybe some of our blind spots are. So we have used different tools like Working Genius we love the Strengths Finder, and we've we've kind of tried them out on ourselves first, and then we offer them to pastors and staff and leadership teams so that they can think about how we work better together. I think human nature tends to make us want to just silo. It's so much less work in some ways just to do my thing and just be in my little box. But really, the Holy Spirit moves when we all come together and all the gifts are shared, and we're far better than we thought we could be when we come together. And that takes intentionality, and it takes prayer, and it takes some better understanding of kind of the human dynamics of how we all show up with our gifts for ministry. So that's been some of the things that we've been kind of working on to accompany. Our team will connect with pastors frequently, hopefully have conversations about sort of what are some of their dreams for their parish, what are some of maybe the pain points or the challenges that they're facing. Another key part that the Emmaus team plays is to help to be a point person to maybe help if there are other folks at the Catholic Center or Chancery that could bring their expertise and their support to a pastor. We want to do that. We've had a few pastors who've, especially if there's been changes in the demographics or changes, maybe two parishes are coming together in a pastorate, they may be looking like at their staff and saying, are we really directed towards mission? Do we really have the right people? Like we talk about the right people on the bus, and are they in the right seats? So what we will sometimes do if a pastor raises that with us is we will bring in our folks from our fiscal department who also have regional people who work with specific parishes, so they get to know those parishes, and also our human resources, of course. And we might just kind of dream, and we might have a blank slate and say, what are the key initiatives that the parish wants to have? What might the roles look like on the staff? Having HR weighing in on the kinds of the different jobs that you might want to look at, and then having fiscal weigh in and say, well, this is what you can afford. Maybe this might be the dream team that you want in the future. Right now, you could afford something a little smaller, maybe. And what could you do? How could you build it out so you could get to the point where you have that dream team? So it's been great collaborative conversations, not just in the Institute, but also Catholic Center or Chancery-wide.
Our 2025 Rebuilt Conference was beyond all that we could ask or imagine. There were over 700 attendees from around the globe who came together to be inspired, encouraged, and equipped. This conference was created for parish leaders and diocese teams who are ready to transform and renew their communities. Did you join us? Did you learn new ideas, ways to strengthen your mission? Are you ready to join again or for the first time? Save the date. May 2nd through May 4th, 2027, the Rebuilt Conference is returning to Timonium, Maryland. This gathering is more than a conference. It is an opportunity to come together with pastors and parish leaders from around the world who are committed to building healthy, growing, mission-driven parishes. For now, save the date, May 2nd to May 4th, 2027, at Church of the Nativity in Timonium, Maryland. Details and registration will be coming in months ahead, so stay tuned. We cannot wait to welcome you.
Okay, I have to tell you guys, Julie, as you're sharing, I'm sitting here thinking, oh my goodness, if my diocese had this when I was working in the parish, what a dream that would have been. How incredible that I think back to sometimes how it's done where the diocese gives, like, here's some ideas, here's some things you can do, but really walking alongside of them and saying, okay, we're not just here to enforce the rules. Here, let's dream together, bringing in HR to help figure out not just the right people, but like, what are the right positions for this fit? Because as populations change, as parishes change, all of that's going to fluctuate a little bit. I'm so excited to hear about all of this. Now, Edward, I'd love to hear your take on all of this and maybe how you've modeled some of this and how you've kind of brought it down, that trickle effect down into the parishes.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because even as Julie's talking, I mean, her team, so it's her office that she oversees is the Office of Parish Renewal, but it's made up of 3 two-person teams called Emmaus Teams, right? And I mean, the idea is really that those two-person teams are walking together even kind of as they're walking with parishes, right? So it's someone that, each of those teams spend intentional time in prayer together. They pray for their pastors. They pray for the parish teams that they're working with. They're praying for their parishes as they have kind of big things that they're working on with them. So I just feel like that idea of the Emmaus team really already is talking about, well, what is it to accompany, right? Like we're walking together on mission. We're praying together. And so I just think that idea is something that's already hopefully something we try to embody with our structure, and the way in which we operate. And then kind of when you look beyond that at the Institute as a whole, we definitely try to, as much as we kind of invite parishes to look at their values, as we encourage them to really build out a leadership team, kind of that layers of leadership. I know Rebuilt uses that language of layers of leadership. And so that we try to really live that out ourselves, so that we're not calling parishes to something that we're not actively striving to do as well, right? So with that, like when we created the Institute, it came from really a white paper and a consultant who's a good friend of ours who really came up with this idea. And then as we were really bringing it to life, we brought together a core team of leaders that really thought through what are the kind of crucial pieces to this, right? And then kind of each of those offices getting built out from that. But really this idea of, okay, how do we come together as a leadership team, as a core team? And then now we continue to do that on a weekly basis, come together, huddle, plan strategy for bigger things, right? Kind of strategy days where we're coming together, looking at bigger initiatives of the Institute, but then also on a weekly basis, kind of looking at more tactical pieces. So yeah, it's been a real blessing. It's challenging at sometimes to hold ourselves accountable to what we're asking others. You know, I mean, it's like when I used to do marriage and family life, did a lot of marriage preparation, and people are like, "Oh, you must be great at marriage," and it's like, well, we'll ask my wife about that, right? So I mean, we're kind of trying to make our way as well with it. So when we talk about accompanying, I mean, the idea is we're growing as we're walking too, right? So I just think that's an important piece of it. Is really trying to embody it, trying to live it out ourselves, and then inviting our parishes to kind of strive for that as well, you know?
I just am so excited to hear about all of the intentionality around everything that your team is doing, from having these 2-person Emmaus teams praying together, to setting the example, to praying with the parishes, walking alongside of the parishes and guiding them. I mean, just what a great way to be supporting them on this mission of parish renewal. Now, Edward brought up some of the layers of leaders. And Julie, I was hoping that maybe you could share a little bit about how you help those different groups of leaders within a parish.
Sure. So I think one group that we're quite involved with the pastor is, of course, their staff. Whether they be a volunteer staff or a paid staff in larger parishes. And I think that the key there in staff relations is to help them to buy into the vision of the pastor, helping them to be on the same page and moving, like rowing the boat in the same direction, because you don't want to be rowing in circles, right? So a lot of work that we've been asked to do by pastors and that we've encouraged them to do is like Edward talks, we help them to develop their own staff values, asking them to share, times when they felt they were really part of the team and what was being exhibited. And maybe what are those things that are maybe getting in the way or becoming barriers or conflict, using the idea that the conflict isn't a bad thing, but it has to be healthy. Yes. And what does that look like? So we help staff teams to kind of even develop a kind of rules of engagement, which we also developed ourselves. And when you try to shift a culture and when you're really trying to live into those, you have to hold each other accountable. There are a lot of times that even around our office, we will say, now, if we were to assume best intentions, how could we interpret this situation, for example? So I think that the idea that's very important. Helping staffs to understand and recognize that they have to be the leader in changing the culture of prayer, which we've been talking about. How often do you pray? What are some ways that you can integrate prayer into your day to day, where it's not just an item on an agenda, but it becomes infused in what you're doing? And that also leads to, we've developed some workshops on discernment. Like, how do we use discernment? Like, when we have big decisions to make, either as an institute or as a parish, are we allowing the Lord to speak into that? Or are we just kind of using the head to kind of say, well, logically, this is what we should do? So I think those kind of staff, so we've done like staff workshops, we do retreats with staffs if they would like us to. The best part is, of course, that we are free consultants because we work for the diocese. So we have quite a few people who take us up on that. But I think that kind of helping that staff to move forward and see their value and see that absolutely every member of the staff is part of the evangelization of the parish and the mission. There's no small part. It's sort of like a Disney, everybody has a part to play in the culture that you experience when you go there. The same is true with the parish. So we've done a lot of work with staffs on doing that. The other layer of leadership that we've particularly been working on has been the pastoral councils. And I think we've heard from pastors their frustrations with pastoral councils, particularly when they were kind of more like a board or a voting group, which is what many of them inherited when they started at their parish. We found during COVID, a lot of the pastoral councils kind of fell to the wayside. And that was actually an opportunity to kind of regroup and revamp. And just recently, we released new guidelines on a discerning pastoral council. And we've had quite a few of our parishes have invited us in to do some formation. First of all, to help them with the discernment process. So rather than a vote, and it's just the in-group who knows each other, and okay, it's your turn to be on the pastoral council next to tell the pastor what he should do. Rather, we are inviting a whole bunch of people who are showing that they share kind of the vision, the direction the parish is going, and having a mutual discernment. They discern if they feel called to be on the pastoral council, and the pastor and staff discern who should be on there, and bringing them together, and then looking at more what I would say is like adaptive challenges to the parish, like visioning what does it look like to create more loyalty in our parishioners, and what might we be able to do with that? How do we become a more welcoming parish, and what could it be done? All in the context of taking your time, allowing people time to, first of all, you have to form them, because many parishioners are like, what are you talking about? So maybe sending them some videos or some articles or things to kind of dive into that, and then allowing them time to pray with it as well. And then help them to understand that what they discern and what God might speak to them would become a recommendation, not necessarily we're going to do X. So that's another piece that we've been working on as well. And I think the other piece is just helping parishes to understand that sometimes simpler is better. We have a lot of parishes that have 60, 70, 80 ministries, and just to get a sense of like looking at your ministries as part of the whole, and how does that help people to become more in love with the Lord and to further their walk and their discipleship path. And also to think about all the folks who are maybe coming and not engaged as a real disciple yet. And further, who are those in the community that you need to reach out to? But trying to make things simpler. Every ministry in a parish should be welcoming. It should invite new people in. It should have leadership development in it. And it should be helping people to grow in their walk with the Lord, and then going out and making more disciples. And if a ministry is not doing that, then maybe that's something that you don't focus your energy on, but you focus more on the things that are going to actually do that.
Right. And that sounds like maybe one of the problems that parishes might come to you with when they start working with you. So I'd love to hear from both of you. When you start working with a parish leadership team, what are some of those common challenges that you're encountering, maybe with staff culture or leadership clarity or evangelization as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, why don't you go ahead, Julie? I mean, I think I would just kind of make one point where I think it's tough because when we talk about these things, I think for a lot of priests, there's feeling like it's all on them and they're kind of going at it alone. And that is a super hard feeling. Like if you feel like it's just the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and the more that there's like this, there's been a lot around the language of the co-responsibility of the laity.
Yes.
And the more that priests can kind of invite the laity into that leadership, into that co-responsibility, I think it's just such a freeing thing for them. And I just think it's such a crucial point. I mean, it was funny when we were at y'all's conference, I guess it was last year now, like it was last year now.
2025.
Yeah. It was funny. One of the priest who was speaking, he said, it was like, what anchor were they going to start on? And he said, well, we started with the Sunday experience. And the fact that he even said we implied that it wasn't just him.
Yes.
And thank goodness, right? Just this idea of the need to invite other people into that, even though it's sometimes very hard to take that first step. But so that's what I'd say. But Julie has a tremendous amount more around this and
Well, first,
working with that. Yeah.
Edward, you bring up an excellent point. This is something that we see in parishes all of the time as well, where the priest comes to us and he's like, I don't even know if I can work with you because I just have too much on my shoulders. I don't even know if I have time to do any of this, because he feels that burden that it's all on him. And let's be honest, sometimes some of these pastors who have been in the priesthood for 20 plus, 30 plus years, they weren't necessarily trained on how to lead a parish staff of laity. You know, when you think about it, 30 years ago, we had full rectories, right? We had multiple priests at multiple, it was a completely different type of dynamic. And so he thinks it all falls on him. And there's so much that can be done when the laity are invited in, when we help our pastors see, hey, look, yes, it's your responsibility, but don't worry. You have a whole team here. And if you don't have one, we're going to help you build one. So that way he's got people with, as you both had said earlier, the right giftings and having those right people in the right place to support him.
Yeah, I mean, I think pastors, it's getting to know themselves. So what are the things that they are doing that are bringing them joy, that are filling up their cup? And they really should keep doing them. And then obviously there are things that only a priest can do, only a pastor.
For sure.
Can do. So they've got to do those things. But the things that are draining them, and if there are not things that only a priest can do, are things that a leadership team or a staff can help come around and alleviate the pastor from. So I think we've spent a lot of time talking about that kind of the team dynamics. And even in our own institute, we had that when I first started working.
Julie and I both have gifts that are different.
We are very
That's
different.
perfect.
So when we first started and I was working for Edward, I was not sure that I could work with him because he would be asking questions. He'd be like, well, what if we were to do this? You know, we could do this or this or this or this. Or, what do you think? This is kind of impacting us. And I was taking all of his ideas and I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to do that. Now I've got to do this. I got to do that. And it was driving me crazy. Well, we did the Working Genius. And all of a sudden I realized he's a WI, which means that he loves asking questions and he loves coming up with ideas. And that's his happy place. And he does that a lot. I am a GE. I'm going to take things. I'm going to get everyone involved with whatever the decision is. And I'm going to move it forward. And I'm going to walk with them and help people to have what they need to do that. So once I realized that he was just in his happy place and not expecting me to galvanize, we had to discern what he was going through before we moved to where I would kind of take it and move it forward. We were much happier. It also made us realize that taking the Emmaus teams and moving them forward was so key. And it totally is my love language. You know, I love doing that. Everyone on my team, I didn't hire for this, but every one of them has enablement, which is not the bad kind of enablement. It actually is a gift where you walk with people and you help to give them what they need to move things forward on their terms, not on your terms. And every one of my team has that. And that's what they do most of the time in accompaniment. But the gift that I found was that when it was more of a conversation about higher level, about what is the strategic outlook or where do we need to go or what might we need to be considering. And I'm at a loss as to what to put on the agenda for that kind of meeting. I just have to spend 5 minutes with Edward and I've got a whole agenda and he's got all kinds of great ideas. So it's just being able to rely on each other and pull out those gifts as we need them. It's honestly made this the best work I've ever done, the best ministry I've ever been in, because it's just been so freeing to kind of live into where I feel like God has given me my strengths and not worry about my weaknesses, not try and correct them, because thank goodness there's others around me who have those gifts.
Easter changes everything. But the question for your parish is simple. Will inspiration turn into action? Our new 5-week Easter message series, Go, is designed to help you move your people from spectator to servant. Beginning on Easter Sunday, this series walks your parish through a clear invitation. Do good. Be sent. Step forward. Serve. Grow. Grounded in Scripture and built specifically for the Easter season in Year A, Go helps parishioners see that serving is not filling a role. It is living the resurrection. You'll receive 5 fully written, completely customizable homilies, plus coordinated small group discussion guides, so your entire parish moves in one direction. If you're ready to turn Easter momentum into volunteer engagement, it's time to go. Visit rebuiltparish.com/Easter to access the series today. And I think that just you sharing that example right there is a great example of how you're helping those parish teams too. I'm sure you've shared this story more than just now. I'm sure you've shared it. And Edward, looking at the way you didn't react, I'm guessing this has been shared before, but I think it's important that parishes hear. Yes, we might have, when we're working in our area of genius, it might be a frustration for somebody else, but that's the beauty of working together. And then you can turn around and help those teams see that as well. And Edward, I'm right there with you. I'm a WI too. I drive people crazy. So I get it.
Well, and what that brings up is an interesting point when you think about leadership teams, right? So we have some pastors who absolutely love administration. And so they don't rely so much on a business manager or someone like that, because that actually brings them joy and that fills them up. Now, if that pastor was to move and a new pastor comes in who's maybe got a gift and their strength is not administration, that position may become more important, might even be somebody on a leadership team. So there has to be some kind of flexibility and understanding that depending on the gifts of who is leading it, different people might be called to the table at different times for different things. Mm-hmm. And I think that takes humility, right? It takes, knowing when you're being called to be that or not. But it really is important because you can't just say, well, you need someone who can do this and someone who can do this on every parish. Every parish is unique, like every pastor is unique.
Sure.
And I think we've been spending a lot of time as well on pastor transitions. So we are trying to help, like when a transition is announced, is to help the staff to set expectations as to what that could look like. What are the best ways to welcome in a new pastor? What are the best ways to celebrate the pastor going out? We had one pastor who was retiring who said, I don't want a celebration. And I said to him, it's not for you. It's actually for the people. They need closure, And then we will meet with the new pastor. We will share demographic information. We will share what's been happening with the parish, any kind of strategic planning they're doing, who are some key leaders, who are good people to go to, just to try to make that transition as smooth as possible, because that is always, it's always a jarring thing and somewhat unique for a Catholic church that your CEO turns over, in the frequency that it does in parishes. Yeah. So that's another area we've been doing a lot of work with, and in collaboration with clergy personnel as well.
That's a great point, because as we're having so many changes happen, and dioceses all over the country are seeing this too, where we have a priest shortage and there's not enough. And so we're having to, in some places, close, in some places merge. And so there is a lot of that transitioning happening. And what a great way. I mean, that you're just helping them through all of that. I love that. Now, I would love for both of you to share, because you get to see parishes from all over your diocese. What distinguishes a parish that from going from maybe just maintenance or managing the decline? What's different from those versus those that are actively working on renewing their mission?
I'm going to let Edward think. I think that parishes that are more missional, I think there's some of the key, and we've been looking at parish renewal across the board, including Rebuilt, of course, and others. I think there's some real commonalities, right? I think parishes that are more missional are ones that are going out, ones that are making sure that their presence is not just on the parish campus, but actually is in the community. They're deeply embedded in the community. And like Edward was talking about, even outreach and that kind of stuff is sharing our joy, our hope in the Lord, through our outreach. I think that missional parishes also have some small groups of it, especially if they're a larger parish, they have a way to make a larger parish feel more connected. I liken this a little bit to young adults at the gym. Like when they go to the gym, they have workout partners, and if they miss a day, they get a phone call saying, how come you missed the workout today? That should also happen in a parish. That if you miss a few Sundays, someone calls to check, is everything okay? That kind of thing. And I think we have to try and create that community. I think the pastor has a vision and everyone knows what the vision is and people are buying into it. And like we talked about, there's a real focus on welcome and the sense of a beautiful liturgy, whatever that liturgy might be, that the music is beautiful, that there is a welcome that is more than just somebody opening the door, but it actually permeates the whole community, and that there is a vibrant, challenging homily that really helps people to connect with the Lord and to go forth and serve and make more disciples. I mean, a missionary parish has disciples that are making more disciples and inviting others to come and have a reason to say, I can do that. Something that we've been asked about as well is just the sense of, like, a lot of people who've been lifelong Catholics are like, what, you mean I have to evangelize? So we have been working on some workshops to help people understand how to pray with and for someone, how to share your story, how to share the story, the Jesus story, and that kind of sense of an invitation. So I think all of those things are signs of a missional parish, and parishes that are on the way may have one or two of those things and are working on the others, but certainly it's a journey and a spectrum.
So good. Edward, I don't know if she left anything for you. She
She
shared
didn't
so many
leave
great
anything.
things.
She didn't leave anything on the table. I mean, it's funny because as she's talking, Julie's done a lot kind of looking at renewal and kind of saying, what are those markers? What are those key things? So spend a lot of time in that space. It's funny, in some ways, those are a little more kind of strategic, like things that we need to be doing. I would say even before that, one thing, and this is what I discover at some parishes, is that there has to be first the fundamental conviction that we are called, like that the church is missionary in nature, right? That you have to have that conviction in order to do all the things in a way that actually matters. And I think that's sometimes what I'm still surprised that there are many people that's a realization to, right? That, I mean, it's funny, like the old church language would be, why does the church exist? The church exists for the salvation of souls. Okay, well, but what do we mean by that? We mean that we are missionary in nature. We are called to go out and proclaim in word and deed the good news of Jesus Christ. And I think that first and foremost, there has to be that fire in our belly, that understanding that we are called to go out. And all of the other stuff is kind of just doing stuff if in the first instance we don't have that fundamental conviction. And so that's sometimes what's hard, is to get people to realize that, and it's not even just realize it, they have to experience it, right? It's an encounter with the risen Lord that sets our life on fire, right? And sets our life in a definitive direction. So I think that, and then we can kind of help them do the things, right? But they have to be convicted in the first instance.
Without that conviction, nothing else is going to happen. Now, listen, first I want to thank the both of you for taking this time. And as we wrap up, I just want to ask, if a parish leader out there is listening and wants to take just one concrete step in the next 30 days to strengthen leadership and move their parish towards renewal, what would you recommend that they do first?
I would recommend they gather some people who also have that desire, that holy longing, and just pray with it and pray about what should be that step. It'll be different in every place, but then also if the pastor is not involved in that, just to share, we want to serve, we're discerning, discern with us because we would like to help to go out and make more disciples.
So good. Edward, would you agree with that, or you have any other thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, call Rebuilt. We're on the Rebuilt podcast. I mean, come on. Give them a little love, Julie. No, I would say absolutely what she said. I mean, I think we're talking about the layers of leadership piece, right? I mean, whether it's a parish leader or a pastor, right? To get someone to walk with you, to kind of try to go at it together. Because I think otherwise you feel very alone, right? It's like, oh, we've got the whole world to evangelize. And it's like, well, let's start with a couple people because, someone else did that.
Right.
Well, and I think you speak to a good point. We are thrilled that some of our parishes are using Rebuilt coaches. I think that's great. It's a great method of accountability. It helps them to kind of see and have an outside voice that's going to help them. Our recommendation to any pastor in our diocese is pick something. Like just, whatever it might be. If it's working with the Emmaus team, if it's working with Rebuilt, if it's doing something else, if it's, educating yourself, if it's bringing people around, just take that next step. Because I think that the danger is we can just kind of be so busy that we never poke our heads up to look at where we're going, and we could be heading off the cliff. And so it's just really important to we're all in this together. We are the body of Christ. So lean into the body of Christ on that.
Oh, for sure. Well, Julie, Edward, thank you both for pouring into our pastors and parish leaders who are listening today. We're so grateful that you took the time for us.
Thank you.
It's a joy to be with you.
And thank you to all of our listeners. We'll see you next time.